Hello, everyone, and welcome to a virtual episode of Into the Vault, the show where we reach back into the Disney vault, pull out a movie, and find out if it was a hidden treasure or if it was locked away for our own good. I'm your host, Garrison MacCraw, and not with me today is Tim Watt.
I have been installed into the program. Hi.
Oh, I think I got a virus. Hold on. Let me
Oh,
just.
that's me like fading away.
Thank goodness this virus told me that it faded away.
Like it is very appropriate that we are doing a virtual episode for the film that we watched.
Homeward Bound.
Yes, Song of the South.
The Song of the South.
Because just like normal white people, we get to watch from afar virtually at the suffering of others.
So either that or we watched Tron.
We did watch Tron. We watched Tron.
A 1982 classic starring Jeff Bridges and a bunch of other people who have not worked since.
Yep. I recognize no one from this film other than Jeff Bridges. Well, except for the one guy. There was the guy who who played the boss guy who owned the company. He's been in like a lot of like sci-fi fantasy stuff. And he was even like I was looking on IMDb. He was even like the voice of some like D&D animated thing too. But that's it.
Fun.
That's like the only other person who's like had a career.
He kind of looked to me like he looked like he could be the dad of director Krennic from Rogue One.
You know, he did give me director Krennic vibes.
Yeah, or like it was the exact same character as director Krennic's role in Ready Player One.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he was in Ready Player One, wasn't he?
Yeah, director Krennic.
I like that actor. He's really good. Like anything he's in, I'm like, I love it.
So Tim, do you have any background with this movie before going into it?
Okay, so a little bit. I knew that it existed, of course, but I had never seen it. I have seen Tron Legacy, and I loved Tron Legacy. I thought the aesthetic was great. I loved the music. I don't remember the plot, but I remember liking it. I also have a very huge love of Jeff Bridges. The Big Lebowski is like one of my all-time favorite movies. So I am a little ashamed that I haven't seen Tron because like it's like the Jeff Bridges movie for a lot of people. I did have a little bit of background before we watched it because there's the new series on Disney Plus called Prop Culture, and they had a little snippet about Tron. They had an episode about it. So I had seen that. So then when you told me you wanted to watch Tron, I was like, yes, because that really piqued my interest more from just the standpoint of like the things that the film did from a technology standpoint before other films. So a little bit of background, not a lot. I didn't know anything about the plot at all really before seeing it.
And you're right, the technology in this movie is amazing, and I'm sure we'll get into that later. Personally, I like you, I've seen Tron Legacy. There was even a Disney XD cartoon called Tron Uprising.
I remember you talking about that and really liking it.
Bridging the gap between the first movie and Legacy. And the animation is bizarre. Like, It takes you like 13 episodes to get used to it, and there's only 13 episodes. But like it's like about Elijah Wood being Tron's new sidekick to help protect the grid.
So he's basically he's like, I'm the guy.
I'm the guy
from Spy Kids.
Yeah,
I bet that movie holds up. Spy Kids 3.
I gotta double check, but I think Miramax might somehow be connected to Disney. It's gotta be. With all the
Disney owns everything, so
yeah. There was also Tron in the Kingdom Hearts games.
Really?
Like the Kingdom Hearts 2, you go to like the Tron world, and
that's right. I do remember that. I wasn't a big Kingdom Hearts kid, but I remember that happening.
I feel like a lot of people like our age really only know Tron from Kingdom Hearts or Legacy, but
yeah,
very few people have seen the original, and now we can say we're one of the few who have.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just curious on like how people saw this movie before the internet, because it definitely seems like one of those films that like people just forgot about.
It wasn't very super well received when it came out. It also wasn't super. I mean, no one watched it. It didn't make any money. I think Disney was kind of banking on it to like. I think they mentioned it in pop culture to like be like a Star Wars.
Yeah, because I mean, it came out in 1982. That was like a really big boom in the sci-fi industry. I was actually watching. There's a show on Shutter, which is like another one of those like streaming services, and they did like a whole
Yeah,
study into sci-fi. And from like 1975 onward was like a big boom and a lot of sci-fi stuff, and they were like trying a lot of things. So I think Disney was really trying to capitalize on it because they didn't really have any other, you know, like sci-fi stuff going on. I was looking at
except the
like what
black hole,
the black God.
that
I
hit
was looking
movie, The
at
Black
other
Hole.
I've never seen that movie, and I don't know if I want to.
Well, I might force you to someday.
So like I looked at movies that came out in 1982, and like it makes sense. I think if it came out in a different year, it might have done better because it was up against E.T., Blade Runner, and The Dark Crystal. Like those are like three of like some of the biggest like sci-fi fantasy films,
Right.
and like then Tron, you know. So I understand.
Well,
Like I feel like if it was just the wrong time,
I will say, other than ET, the rest of those are like Tron, Dark Crystal, and what was the last one?
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. Those are all kind of like culty movies.
I agree. I do agree. It's just a hard time, and also Annie,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
How do you
sci-fi
compete?
horror Annie.
It's a hard knock life in a
Pew
computer.
pew.
Um, so normally on the show, we discuss it and then sit down and watch the film. But to kind of streamline this, since we can't be in the same room together, we like a cooking show. We already watched it.
hmm Oh,
Like
Wrath of Khan
you
came
opened
out
the
that year
oven.
too. I'm sorry to
Which
interrupt.
one?
Wrath of Khan.
Oh
Yeah, so like that's like a big sci-fi year. Huh.
man,
But yeah,
or
so
spot.
we cheated and did the whole like, all right, we're gonna let this sit in the oven for 40 minutes. Okay, we're
Oh, we already
back.
have one done. We pull it out right now. So Tim, having watched this movie, could you help me out here? Understand what's going on?
I can't. I don't know what
Okay.
happens. Um, I this movie.
Yeah, we open up with Kevin Flynn like guiding around his little avatar of himself in a computer in a tank
hmm
and trying to accomplish some task.
Yes, he is doing something.
And he ultimately fails at that task.
Okay, just the start of this movie is bad. Like, I don't know why they felt the need to show us like what was happening inside the program at the beginning, because I think it would have been so much more compelling if they had waited, and then that's like a big reveal.
Yeah.
Because like
Like
this sounds horrible, but like for that time, like that technology was unreal, like that computer animation, but it's still bad. Like it still looks bad, right? And so like
yeah,
you imagine being an audience member in 1982, you just watched E.T., which is like an amazing like, special effects movie.
it
And
looks
then you sit
great.
down to watch Tron, and then like the first scene that opens up is just this awful computer animation. Like it immediately like turns you off, to the movie.
Yeah, and it's this weird like hand drawn mixed with CG mixed with practical, and the idea of it is really cool and probably the only way they could accomplish what they wanted given
Mm-hmm.
the era the movie was made in, but
Yep.
it's very jarring for human eyes to look at.
Yeah, it doesn't look normal.
So we cut to this bad guy who's talking to his computer program, the master control program, and they're taking over other programs and incorporating it into their system.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really heavily explained what the ultimate goal is here, other than just getting the company to be bigger, or how incorporating these other programs helps. I mean, I guess we can assume, like, if you're adding more programs to your system, it's going to be a better system. But again, it's very complicated to understand.
Yeah, I think what they were trying to say in the overarching story of the film is it opens and there's all of these like little programs trying to take over other programs to make the like software better, and then it cuts to the idea of this big corporation that is also trying to do the same thing. Thus he we'll get to that part later with the plot, but how Flynn's software basically got stolen and things like that to make the program better and things like that. um, and what they're trying to say is that I think big corporations that are trying to buy up intellectual property to then try and make money off of that, I think is a wrong concept. Which
You're right.
is interesting for
What
Disney
kind
to
of
say.
company?
Like,
What kind of company would ever have the audacity to try something like that? You know?
how dare? Like, it's just awful. It's like letting people own their own property unless they want to sell it for like billions of dollars.
So we have, in the real world, we have this couple, Alan and a girl. Um,
What her name is.
uh, girl. So Alan and girl are a couple, and they're realizing that Jeff Bridges has been trying to sneak into the master control program's programming for some reason, and they're his friend, so they want him not to get caught. So they go to his arcade to warn him, like, "Hey, the master control program and the company's onto you. You need to like stop."
Yeah, that specific scene where they're in Flynn's arcade, um, it became very apparent to me that Jeff Bridges is a timeless being who is exactly the same way now as he was then. Like
There's very little change.
I loved
Hey
it. Like I
man,
love. Yeah, it's like, hey man, like I don't think he has any other like type. Like there's the Giver, I guess, where he's just a little bit more like stoic, but I don't know. Like he's just kind of always the same character, and I love that so much.
so they're like, "Why are you trying to get in here and get in the master control program? You know you'll get caught." And he's like, "So they stole a bunch of video game ideas from me and are selling it as their own, and I'm not making any money off of it. So I'm trying to find proof in the program
Hmm.
that the games were mine." And so I guess they decide to help him because they don't like what's going on with the corporation either.
Well, isn't there some kind of like subplot going on during all of that where basically they were going to use the laser to put actual people into the program or something?
Yeah. So at the corporation itself, there is a scientist who's like, we this idea of like a laser that could, in theory, digitize you and something science.
Which is an interesting concept. Especially like thinking about like at that time in 1982 where computers were really just taking off. And I can't think of much other sci-fi that, because I'm a big sci-fi buff, and like I can't think of any other sci-fi stories that had that idea yet of like, oh, you
Right.
put a person into a program. Like now that's like a thing we do all the time in sci-fi, because I mean you got Ready Player One. Actually, honestly, you have Spy Kids 3, you know. Like like that idea is pretty common now, but I can't think of much else before Tron that had that idea.
I don't think they had computers be a thing enough before that time to really kind of dive into it.
Yeah, so it was kind of ahead. Like the plot was very ahead of its time in that standpoint.
Yeah. Um. So the three of them are sneaking into the company, so Flynn can go in, find his evidence, and then skip off, take over the company or whatever it is they want to do. They get in there, and he starts. Flynn gets to the computer and starts trying to mess with the master control program.
Hmm.
And the master control program's like, "I'm smarter than you, and I'm gonna win this." And also, I have a giant laser that brings you into a computer pointed at your back.
Yeah,
End of line.
pretty much.
Uh,
The scene after that where like because the master control program uh fires the laser at him basically and like transports him into the program. That is probably one of the most impressive scenes in that movie. Like it is so cool. Like the way he vaporized into the program and then like it went deep into it. Like it was very 2001 A Space Odyssey type feel. Like it almost was identical to like the Jupiter scene in 2001 and I really appreciated that. I thought it was cool.
yeah, I love seeing just how, because nowadays you can do whatever you want.
Mhm.
You can, like, you want a guy to disappear, you got a guy that disappears. You just use CG and all this other stuff. So like back in the day to like watch them, it almost looks like it was an animated sequence, like they hand like erased him from the scene frame by
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah. That's what they had to do. I've been watching some YouTube videos on like how they made that film, and they just no one had done it before. So they like now. I think looking at the technology they had now, like then, we could probably figure out ways to do it better. Like even with the technology they had, but just no one had done it before. And they also talked about how um, no animate like there were no computer animators at the time. So what they had to do is they had to bring in animation animators in to then build relationships with computer programmers who knew nothing about filmmaking and knew nothing about like animation to then try to explain to them what they wanted. So it was like this weird, and I think that like shows some of the like the weirdness of it because it's like non-filmmakers making a film. But like there's certain parts of it where it's like, whoa, they did that like grassroots um, like combination of drawing and computer animation that had never been done before, and it's really good.
It's awesome. It really is.
Yeah,
Um,
it blew
once
my
they,
mind in some aspects, not the plot, but
no,
the look.
but the rest of it.
Yeah, the idea.
Once they get into the like the grid as they call it, the like Tron
Hmm.
universe, we have Flynn almost immediately taken captive and thrown into a cell with other like little programs. And they have this kind of subplot going on where the programs think of the users, the like people from the real world who create them as sort of gods.
Yeah.
And like some programs don't believe in the users, like the ones who are from the master control program, just like call them like religious nut jobs if they like talk about the users. And I found that to be a very interesting.
That was a cool concept because it makes you wonder what like computers think of us now in a way. There was one line, and I think it's before they even go into the computer that kind of like piqued my interest, which was like we was talking about like the computer thinks or something like that, and then the guy goes, "Computers will never think." And it's like,
Yeah,
okay, well, there's two things going on there. First of all, you think about the future, right? And the computers think all the time. Like they're literally learning to think constantly, and they're getting better at it like every year. And then at that time too, you go into the computer, and the computer was thinking.
yeah, and like improving, getting smarter.
Yeah, it was like a very interesting like plot point to me. I liked it.
Once taken captive in the grid, Flynn starts talking to these other programs and kind of learns that he's going to be forced into some like gladiatorial video games.
Hmm. He's surprisingly calm during all of this.
Yeah,
I think
I don't know if
Bridges
it was a
way.
character choice or if it was just a bad acting choice. Uh,
Yeah.
like he's like stuck in his computer and he's like, "Hey man, this is really strange. Oh, I'm gonna fight games. I'm good, and I'm good at games."
I'm good. I play games all the time. Grabs a white Russian.
Yeah. uh, the the villain, the MCP's little sidekick who like does all the dirty work for him is this kind of like this evil program that's an avatar for the head of the corporation.
Hmm.
It's like the same actor. Like in the computer world, your avatar is like the same, like looks the same as like who created you.
Yeah.
So this guy's like running the games for the Master Control program and was instructed to have Flynn playing the games until he dies.
Hmm.
And then we get this game of that, that game you used to play like in the summer where you get the like scoop and you put a ball in
Yeah.
the scoop
Well, it
and
was
throw it.
basically Pylai.
Yeah.
It's highlight. And apparently the original like Disney had asked like why didn't you just like use like guns or lasers? But I guess the director was like highly against guns in the movie. And that's why they did like the like that whole highlight thing instead. Yeah, I'm like, but what's better? Like he gets shot or he falls to his death?
Yeah.
Like
I do think if it's going to be games, lasers aren't as fun as a game. I do like when movies do like weird, interesting death games. I'm all about it.
it was a cool concept, and I really like there was one scene during that sequence too that I thought was really impressive, which was there's like a close up on one of the players' hands, and he's throwing around the disc, and it's like got like this weird like anti gravity element to it, and I can't. It's really good to me because I can't tell if it's real or it's computer animation, and that like makes like a good scene to me. Is like okay, you don't know which is which, but like it was really cool the way they like made it happen and it looked really seamless. That's one thing the movie does that's very interesting to me is they put a lot of effort into like very certain sequences and then other ones they put like no effort at all because like I don't know if they just ran out of time or if it's just like it just was too overwhelming. It's like there's certain parts of the movies that feel like a showcase of what they could do with animation at the time.
So after escaping from the little ball, not escaping, but winning the like throw the ball, don't die game, Flynn meets up with some other programs who are about to all be thrown into a light cycle match.
Mm-hmm.
And the light cycle is kind of what everyone kind of associates with the Tron universe.
Right.
The two programs he's working with, he meets Tron himself, which is a security program built by his friend Alan,
Mm-hmm.
and this other like accountant program named Ram.
Yeah, that was funny. I legitimately sighed when I heard the name. I was like, "Oh,
Like, I'm Ram.
I'm
Ugh.
Ram." I'm just like, "Oh God."
Hello, my name's Floppy Disk.
Hello, my name is Gigabyte.
Well, there is a little thing in here called Bit,
Yeah.
but no. So Tron and Ram and Flynn are all going against the MCP's little warrior people in a
Hmm.
light cycle battle. And this light cycle battle looked cool for the time, but also confused me because they put the blue guys in the yellow light cycles and the yellow guys in the blue light cycles.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense to me.
We're like watching them like a blue one die. I'm like, oh no, oh no, that's a bad guy.
What if like that? What if they just animated it wrong and then they're like, "Just keep it."
Well, I think like the original idea was that the colors would be reversed. Like the good
Mhm.
guys would be the red and yellows, and the bad guys would be blue.
Yeah.
I like in color. I don't know why it changed. If it was just easier to do blue for more scenes, or they realized blue is a more good guy color than red, or but it does seem that way. They break out through a. They crash one of the villains into the wall of the arena, and then they all like zip through it to escape.
That was a pretty cool concept. There's something with the plot that they kind of go across is the fact that like Flynn is different from the rest of the other people
Yeah,
because
he can affect the
I
world
never
differently.
thought of is to just break the wall, you know. And so he was like, "No,
Yeah.
let's do it," and it worked, you know. So that was kind of like a cool concept that like very much like, and I think there's a little bit of a plot where he's not sure if he's a program or he's dreaming or whatever, and like it's almost like him proving to himself that he's not by like breaking something.
Hmm. So after they make their escape through the hole in the wall,
Hmm.
they have to escape all these like flying ships, the recognizers, and all these tanks and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they get blasted near the end. So Tron is separated. Wait, is that what did it happen then? No, did they stop for
Honestly,
water?
everything after the light cycle until they meet demand was a complete fog for me because it just
Yeah,
was so much going on and it
yeah.
didn't great, so it just kind of was like
There was a scene where they all stopped to like drink water, and I was
that
like, why are
scene is really cool to me. I don't know why, but I watched that and I was like, that is really cool.
it was cool, But there was also that part of me is like, why are do the programs need to drink water?
Yeah, that part didn't make sense.
Or if they did,
Works great.
like, would it work for Flynn?
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing too. Like, why does it work for him? And then he drinks more than they do.
But also, I guess in Tron Legacy, we see them at like a bar, so maybe they do have to like eat and drink and stuff.
Yeah. It's like Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph, another one.
Oh yeah, it's another like inside the video game movie.
So during all the like escaping from the bad guys, this, that, and the other, Ram dies. Poor Ram. Tron
Yeah.
gets separated,
Yep.
and they're trying to do something. Boy,
Yeah.
are they trying to do something.
Like I think they're trying to get either out of the program or like to a certain part of the program so they can fight, the MCP or whatever.
Yeah. I think Flynn is still looking for his like evidence, and Tron,
Yes.
since he's separated, is trying to look for a way to get in communication with his user
Mm-hmm.
to come up with a way to beat the Master Control program.
Right.
Tron meets up with the girl program,
Yeah. Still don't know her name.
and
I don't know if
she
they
needs
say
to
her
work with
name.
them for some reason. I don't know if they ever really established why she needed to come with.
Did she do anything?
She controlled the train light rail thing,
Oh yeah.
but did they know that? I
I
felt
don't
like they got there
know.
on accident. I don't know.
That whole last 30 minutes of that movie is just I don't understand what was happening.
From what I can gather, Alan meets with a guy who was the guy in charge of the portal between the computer
Oh,
world and the real world.
yes, demand. What the freaking heck is up with like a slug? Was he like a
Yeah.
lion? Like what was happening?
Do you think he hates his user for designing him that way?
Well, honestly, like I spaced out and then I kind of spaced back in right when he showed up, and I was like, "What is going on?"
It looked like a Wizard of Oz character.
Hmm.
Like, didn't it like just a guy in a weird like triangle-y costume?
Yeah,
Yeah, he helps Tron get what he needs from Alan to destroy the Master Control program. And Kevin Flynn and all of them, they get on a train somehow. A bunch of things happen.
there's like fights. There's like people following each
Throwing
other,
discs, uh, getting
throwing
information on a
discs.
disc. Let's.
Yes.
It's a bunch of that. So let's get to like the end climax. So we have the MCP, his little minion, and Tron. Tron beats
Hmm.
him with like 3 throws of his identity disc.
Yeah, it's pretty anticlimactic.
But then it goes full Power Rangers on us,
Oh
where
yeah.
the MCP's like, "Make my monster grow," and the guy gets real big. So Tron now has to fight a real big guy.
Yep.
Did Kevin Flynn, did Jeff Bridges kiss the girl program that was dating Tron?
No, I thought Tron kissed the girl program.
I'm pretty sure that was because Tron was fighting down below. So
Maybe it was. I think you're right. Yeah.
so Kevin kisses someone else's
That's
girlfriend,
horrible.
who's also a machine,
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna kiss a machine. I love
who's
technology.
also dating Tron
He's like, it's not cheating
because
because
they're not
like
real.
I'm a human. You're not real, so
If you
it's
kissed
fine.
God, is that cheating?
Wow. I think that we're always kissing God when we're kissing each other. I need you to keep that
Uh,
in. I
it's
specifically
not going anywhere.
need that. One of my favorite bits in a podcast is anytime someone says something really insane and then they go edit it out,
They
but
just
then the
don't.
people just keep
Dory, I'll edit this part out. I'm not editing it out.
okay. The edit out the part where I'm talking about editing it
Got it.
out.
No, it's staying in. It's not going anywhere. Uh, Flynn uses his being a human to go inside the Master Control program and open up a spot for Tron to
Yep.
throw in the disc. And Tron throws in the disc, and it destroys Master Control program. And all the evidence comes to light because the security is disabled. So Flynn gets his company back, and he goes to the real world, and he proves that he's in charge, and everyone's happy. And the grid is free from the MCP's control.
And then the movie pretty
It
much
just
ends.
ends.
Yeah, like there's no like amazing like party or anything. It's just kind of
Or his
over.
friends being like, so what happened in there? He just shows up in a helicopter like, hey, I'm rich now. Woohoo! Let's look at the city.
Yep.
I'm definitely not going to go back there and get stuck for 20 years, leaving my son behind.
By the time I got to the end of this movie, something that really I realized about it was I do not care about any of these characters. Like driving force that any of them are like the reason why they're all doing what they're doing is just because of money. There's no underlying like, thing about like this is my life's work. It's more of just like, yo, I'm rich. I'm like
Yeah,
poor.
like I thought it would be a thing where like he goes in to the grid to like get his company back, but then
Mhm.
he'd learn the MCP's trying to take over the world, and so he'd have to fight for like
Right.
justice and not just his company. But no,
Nope, he just
he
wants
never
money.
learned about that part.
Right.
And he got his money. Good for
Ugh,
him. All right, so
I don't know.
some fun facts and trivia about Tron. You ready for this?
Ooh, fun. I'm so ready.
Um at Disney World, they are currently building a Tron roller coaster based off of one in
Wait,
Shanghai.
really? No
I
way.
know. So they had cast members like people who were working around there. They got to like come in and sign one of the poles, like the support beams that's going in the
Hmm.
ride. So that'd be cool if some people had their name on a pole inside that attraction, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Are you one of those people?
My name will forever be out of sight in a support beam with other things built around it in the Tron ride.
Yeah. They they do stuff like that at Universal too, and I never go. Like they did that for Hagrid's, and I was like, oh, I
I
don't
think Jay and I
care.
just happened to like be in the park that day. We didn't
Yeah.
know it was happening, but like I think other people were like posting about it, and we are like, "Oh,
Cool. I'm excited for that ride. I think from what I see from Shanghai, like it's pretty amazing.
oh yeah, it looks great." Over in California Adventure, they actually used to have a Tron themed dance party called Electronica.
Uh, did they have like a fur character Jeff Bridges
I
come out?
I wish they did have here in Florida for like a moonlight like DVC event. They did have like a couple like just generic programs like able to meet for like one night.
Oh, interesting.
An idea I would not mind if they brought back eventually for when the ride opens.
Yeah, I think they could really capitalize on that because I think it has enough of a cult following that people will see it and be like, "I'm going to do that" just because of like they know what like the history behind the
Yeah.
film, and that's what makes the film interesting. Is that like it's such like a little small snippet of Disney history, but it still managed to have a lot of influence, like including like two sequels and a ride, like and for some films like they won't even get that,
Yeah, like movies that even Tron, a movie that made no money, is getting a ride in Disney World before Tangled, the jump start of the
Right,
new Disney Renaissance, gets a ride before Princess and the Frog,
right.
Wreck It Ralph, even. Actually, Tron, the light cycles appear in Ralph Breaks the Internet because he and Vanellope do a
Mhm.
light cycle like race.
Yeah, it's a fun
Yeah.
scene. There's a lot of references just to Tron in pop culture in
Right.
general. Uh, like I was googling it, and it's like almost like every major show has
I
some kind
remember
of reference to
Zachary
Tron.
Levi's like show Chuck. Like one of the big plot points was
Uh
that he
huh.
had like a board of like all the villains, like you know those like boards with like a bunch of strings tying things together. Like Chuck
Yeah.
had one behind a Tron poster in his room.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fun.
So yeah, even though like this movie is kind of few people I feel have actually seen it, I feel like everyone kind of knows about it.
Yeah, like I've known about Tron even before Tron Legacy came out. Because I know that was a big resurgence of it because I had just heard about it and I knew about the game and seen references to it. I didn't even, and at the time I didn't even know there was a movie. I just thought it was like one of those things that
Yeah.
existed.
I mean, because like the arcade cabinet and all that. I remember there was a time Disney like released like the entire like arcade game online. It might even still be there where like you could just play the entire like Tron arcade game. Just you just go on and you could do like the light cycle
Yeah,
races and stuff like on Disney.com or whatever.
and I remember playing. I played it a lot at Disney Quest
Oh
when
yeah,
Disney
they had a
Quest was
bunch of
still
those
open.
cabinets in like the classic
Yeah.
arcade floor.
Yeah.
Man, Disney Quest.
I miss the old days of arcades, like the arcade aesthetic, and like it was just such a cool time. And obviously it's evolved, and we've all evolved to be more console gamers and all that kind of thing. But there's still something special about like going to an arcade and like those are the games you're playing, and they're a little bit um, prehistoric and stuff, but they still have charm to them, and I don't know. I feel like that's like a lost thing now.
Yeah. Cause even arcades now, like you lose like the whole coin thing, like having to carry around a whole
Yeah,
thing of
because
coins because they just give you like a card, which is cool.
yeah,
But
and or like there's the resurgence of like the bars that have arcades in
yeah,
them,
yeah.
but to me it's still not the same. I don't know. It's just different. Like I miss like it smelling bad, you know, and like the carpet is gross, and like you have to like push through people to get to certain cabinets, and
Just pockets full of tickets.
yeah. Got a pocket full of tickets. I'm gonna
I know they're creating a Tron roller coaster over at Disney World.
right.
But that's not what my show's about. It's not about talking about rides that will exist. If we were building our own Tron, because that one's kind of more based off Tron Legacy, not so much
Sure.
Tron like the original one. What kind of attraction would we want to build for this particular movie? I feel like you probably have a couple ideas.
Yeah, I've got two ideas. My first one is a VR attraction. I don't think that other than the Tron light cycle, we need much in the park. So I think a really good place for Tron to fit would be at the Void.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
Like a
yeah, and you could even do like I think a really cool part of the Void would be like at the end you get to a light cycle and you almost have to like race for your life, and you get on like basically like one of those cabinets where you sit on
like
the
motorcycle.
the
Yeah.
bike, right? But it's VR, and like you're doing it that way. I think that would be really cool. So like maybe more of like a motion base type experience at
I
the
would almost
end.
take it one step further where it's that idea, but instead of placing it in the void, we built like a classic Flynn's arcade. I would
Yeah,
love if like we built like Flynn's actual arcade. You could go and get back to that aesthetic of the classic arcade. Like you have to use quarters for it, like it's not tokens, it's not your magic band, it's just quarters. And then you have the
yeah. What
VR experience, like you go into the Tron, like Flynn, you can play in the arcade and then go into the Tron world and do this like void style VR experience.
That's a great idea, and I think it would fit really well in Hollywood
Oh
studios.
yeah.
Um, in like certain parts of it, or honestly, it sounds crazy, but I'm gonna get killed for this, but like it would work really well on Main Street
Well,
USA.
they used to have like the penny arcade.
You know? Exactly, like almost like an updated penny arcade with like Flynn's on it, because the arcade is Americana, and Tron is Americana in a lot of ways.
No, I don't, and especially if you're not doing Tron attraction like on top, if it just says Flynn's, I feel like no one would really
Yeah,
question. Like it might be a little out of place because
right.
it's 80s versus like a more classical feel, but if you do the signage right, I don't think anyone would really like
Yeah,
give it a second thought.
yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right. It'd be really cool. Do you want to hear my second
Oh, I'm so
idea?
excited for this.
Okay, cool. So what happens is you show up to a warehouse, and the warehouse is owned by the corporation Intron, and you go to a pre-show, and there's a guy that kind of looks like Jeff Bridges, and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna go into the program, and all our friends are gonna come with us. My family is gonna come with us, and we're gonna get on one of these program party buses into the program and basically take it out. And then you get on these big, program party buses, and everyone's wearing like the program Tron, outfits and stuff, and they get you on. And then you kind of go further into the program. And there's like a scene where it like there's like a tunnel and like transports you into
There's
the
screens
computer and
like all
everything.
around you.
Yeah, it's like all around you, and then you get to another scene and everything's all around you. And there's about to be there's like what are those things called? Those big
The recognizers.
recognize. Yeah, the recognizers are chasing you, but right before that happens, Jeff Bridges comes on the screen and he's like, "Okay, guys, we're gonna go to the next part, and you guys got to be really quiet and no phones." And then it speeds up, and you're being chased by recognizers, and then Jeff Bridges jumps from the party bus onto the recognizer and holds on to it, and then you jump over like a big ravine thing, and then it
The
ends.
ravine is like that digitized water they drank.
Exactly.
There's a
Yes.
moment where like one of the MCP's like guards comes up, it's like, freeze, I have an identity disc. And then Flynn comes out with his and he goes, yeah, but mine's a whole lot bigger.
Oh. So stupid.
And we'll call
Honestly,
it
this bit isn't even funny to me anymore, but I'm gonna keep doing it.
Tron Supercharged.
Tron Supercharged. It works.
For those of you who do not know this bit, just listen to any other episode with Tim.
Yep.
All right, if we were
What I do.
all right, so we have to decide: is this thing a hidden treasure, or should it be locked away in the vault?
Oof. I've really been
Me
contemplating on
too.
this. I think that it's a hidden treasure. And the reason why is strictly because of its influence. Um, it's a film that I've known has existed for a long time. Uh, a lot of sci-fi writers refer to it as inspiring them. Um, the visual effects were like nothing ever done before. Although it wasn't good, it still I think that we wouldn't be where we are, or at least it would look different today if Tron had not happened. Um, and the thing is, that's the hard part about these movies. This movie reminds me a lot of a movie called Logan's Run, which is like another one of those movies. It came out in
One where it's
1975, and
like
it
you
was
can't
like
turn 30.
right. Yeah, that one. And it looked amazing, and it had like really cool practical effects with like models and stuff like that. But the plot was meh, right? Like it was boring. It wasn't really like captured you that well. But then 2 years later, we have Star Wars and doing the same kind of concepts, but completely blew everyone away. And I think Tron has that same kind of thing where the world wasn't ready for it yet. Technology wasn't ready for it yet, but it needed to happen, and so for that reason, I think it's a hidden
I would
treasure.
have to agree. Um, yeah, even though
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a great or even it's not the best movie. The plot is
Yeah.
like there's so many elements that could have been done so much better. But I feel like we,
Hmm.
as a Disney fan society, are much better off with it existing because we've gotten so many
Yeah.
great things out of it. Like I love Tron Legacy or the show or the thing levels in Kingdom Hearts or the ride and the like references in various pop culture. I feel like what it's done is more important than what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, looking at this movie from from a sci-fi perspective and not even a Disney perspective, I believe like sci-fi, especially with film, like there's basically like three types of sci-fi. There's the ones that look amazing and have a bad plot, ones that have an amazing plot but look horrible. Then there's good ones that have both, and then there's a fourth category, which is this movie helped set a standard for what some movies could be, but it just wasn't quite there yet. And that's what Tron is. It's just like I see what they were trying to do. They just didn't quite meet the mark, but they needed to do it, or else other people wouldn't have been able to do it.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
Tim, thank you for joining me on this digital journey, both the movie and the fact that we're recording through two different computers. I'm sure our programs inside are having a great time hanging out. Thank you all for joining us
Love
here
it.
today.
Yeah.
If you like the show, go over to Into the Vault podcast on Instagram. If you like Tim, where should they find you, Tim?
Oh, my handle on Twitter is Watt, WATT is his name, and I'm also on Instagram at the same handle. So yeah, please give me that. I'll put my stand up dates up there whenever the world returns to normal. So definitely check that out. I also post funny things sometimes.
Sometimes. Other times
Sometimes.
it's hysterical things. All right, that's the show. End of line.